Good evening. The City of Riverbank City Council Local Redevelopment Authority Board meetings are now in session. Today is Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024. It is 6 p.m. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's pray. Father God, we just come before you this evening, and once again, we want to thank you for this great city of Riverbank, for this council and city staff, Lord. Tonight, Lord, we're asking that you would just give us wisdom as we conduct business, Lord. We thank you for this opportunity and this platform to be able to share concerns, and Lord, that they're not divisive, but it gives us an opportunity to learn about each other and make the best decision moving forward. Just pray for our presentations tonight and our discussion about the Wine and Cheese Festival, Lord. I just pray that all of us would be alert and on point tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe,
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez, Councilmember Barbara Martinez,
Here.
Vice Mayor Jones Cruz,
Here.
Mayor O'Brien.
Here. There'll be no changes to the agenda. Any council or authority member or staff that has a direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare their conflict at this time. Seeing none, we'll move forward with presentation. Item 7.1, presentation introduction of School Resource Deputy Richard Johnson.
Chief Ridenauer will be presenting tonight.
And I had the pleasure of introducing our new school resource deputy. As you know, this has been a long time in the making, and it's with the collaboration of the Riverbank Unified School District, Riverbank Police Services, and that of City Council. This is a position that's near and dear to my heart because it's part of my vision of community-based policing in the city of Riverbank, where basically we can't be productive as law enforcement without the community support and working with the community to ensure our city's safe. So with that, the role of the school resource officer, the way that I envision it and the way that we are working with the schools is that of a mentor, a coach, a teacher, right? To ensure our students have a solid path for success in a safe learning environment. So we chose Deputy Richard Johnson for the position. And, I love to say that I was the one that chose him for that spot, but actually it was the students themselves. Deputy Johnson has worked many football games, school events, school presentations, walk to school events, and most of the students already know him and they have already reached out and that's the person that they selected. So we've had the right person for the job. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about Deputy Richard Johnson and his background. He's been with the Sheriff's Office about 7 years. 5 of those years, he's actually right here in Riverbank working with us. He grew up in the Bay Area, but now lives in a nearby community with his family. And he's a graduate of San Jose State, and he played college ball there. He has a bachelor's degree in criminology with an emphasis in sociology. So Deputy Johnson, he's the right fit for the job, and I'm very happy to introduce him this evening and let him take a little bit more about himself. He's already working with the schools as of January 1st of this year. We were finally able to staff the position. And right now we've been having meetings almost daily with the schools, getting each principal and staff member on board to make sure that our approach is unified and exactly what I spoke about this evening. And so far, everybody's on the same page. So with that, Deputy Richard Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Like Chief said, I've been active with the youth in this community a lot recently, even the past couple of years. I think this is going to be an awesome opportunity to create meaningful relationships, positive relationships with the youth of our community. I'm glad to finally be in my position, and I'm excited to start and get the ball rolling. Thank you, guys.
Thank you and welcome aboard. Anyone have any questions or comments?
Thank you for doing it. Look forward to meeting you and seeing you out on the campus. I want to say thank you and welcome.
Just quick Couple comments, so welcome. I am keeping an open mind about this position. Glad to hear that the students were the ones that were able to pick, able to choose you. I don't know what that process kind of looked like. Just hoping, some of the focuses, for your part and Chiefs, I kind of dug a little bit through that federal report. I know this isn't, Uvalde, but some of the key issues in that report that we saw was failure by law enforcement. This is completely different city, completely different officers. Totally get that. Some of the things that they highlighted in there was kind of leadership failure, lack of coordination and delayed responses. So hoping the goal here is, some type of command structure. Who's going to assume that leadership role? I hope those discussions are already happening. And then I'm hoping the goal for you, bilingual, right? We have a huge population that speaks Spanish. So I don't know if you already speak Spanish, but I hope that's one of the goals there, to kind of connect with the community.
I don't speak Spanish. I've been trying to pick some up as I
Awesome.
go, as I've done this job, right? This community, like you said,
Yeah.
is a big bilingual, community. So, but in times when I need someone to speak Spanish, there's always a deputy available. And I always make sure that they're there with me because I want to make sure the student, the parent can properly communicate how they feel with me. So that's always arranged and taken into consideration.
Awesome. Nice meeting you.
Thank you very much and good luck. Item 7.2, presentation Parks and Recreation Board.
Our Parks and Recreation Director, Michael Patton, will be providing the staff report on this item.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I made a joke today with the Parks and Rec Department that this is a Parks and Rec meeting right now, with a couple presentations we have, and so hopefully my voice doesn't get too annoying for you tonight. One of the things that when I first came here to City of Riverbank that I wanted to implement was getting the community more involved with what we are doing as a department. With Parks and Recreation, it's a very unique department where people recreate differently. We look at a city function. If there's a demand for water, no one's going to argue, say we need less water. Or if there's a problem with the roads, no one's going to argue, say let's keep the roads with potholes. But with recreation, everyone recreates differently. Everyone has different aspects to it. So when you do a program or event that focuses on one aspect, someone may say, hey, my needs are not being met recreationally. And so what we want to do is try and get the community as much involved with as much input to what our decision-making help us out. So one of the things that I've experienced in other communities is they have what's called a Parks and Recreation Board. And currently here in the city of Riverbank, there is not one. And here's my clicker. So what is a Parks and Recreation Board? It is a group of volunteers that advise the Parks and Recreation Department and city on public parks and recreational matters. You may consider it something similar to a planning and zoning committee. It engages in the planning, community outreach, policy recommendations for the Parks and Recreation Department. And as mentioned before, it's composed of local volunteers governed by bylaws adopted and approved by the City Council. So our vision for this is when we as a department look at, for example, fee increases or look at creating new programming, we want to get the community involved. Or when we establish new policies for the community center, we want to make sure the community has an input and a way to express their wants and needs. So some of the benefits, as mentioned, again, community input, adds diverse skill sets to the Parks and Recreation Department. So with the board, we're hoping to get people involved that have different skill sets that we may say, hey, we currently don't have access to this, or this person has connections that we don't have. We want to be able to have board members that have those availability to reach out. It promotes transparency amongst the department. So when we involve working with the community, we want to be able to say, hey, it's not just Michael in his office making up his rules. It's we have a good structure where people are involved in the decision making. Creates collaboration between local government residents and builds advocacy for parks and recreation. And this will help us secure funding and policies to benefit the department. One of the things that we've done in other cities when we create these boards, one example we've done is we grabbed our biggest complainers and put them on this board so they could see the backside, the behind the scenes of what we do as Parks and Recreation. And they understand why we do what we do, and then in turn become our biggest advocates. So when people have questions in the community of why is Parks and Recreation doing this, they don't typically come to us with a phone call or an email. They go to their friends, their neighbors, and go to someone that they know that's outside of us. So when we have that person in place that knows what's going behind the scenes, they could better advocate for what we're doing. So how do we plan to use this in Riverbank? We want to use the input and involvement in the updating of our parks master plans and creation of new ones. A lot of our parks master plans are outdated, or a lot of our parks do not have current master plans. One of the goals that we established as a department is to have a master plan built in place for each park. And so we want a board to be involved with that input, helping spread the word and get other community members involved in that planning process. Those that are part of the board, they're usually our frontline volunteers for department events, programs, and activities and projects. So when we do a big event and we need volunteers, they're usually our first line to go to, say, hey, we need you involved, or we need you to help recruit. They have buy-in with what we're doing. And so that helps us out with furthering our mission there. The involvement in establishing policies and procedures manual for the department, so that we have a city manual, but the Parks and Recreation Department doesn't have one specifically. One of the topics that have been brought to our attention as a department is naming our future parks. And so how do we go about that process? And so again, Michael in his office could think of an idea and send it to Maricel and City Council, but it'd be nice to have another layer where community could give input, where we can have a board that could come to council and say, hey, we provide this recommendation that the City Council approves this, denies this, and provide the opportunity for community members to attend these board meetings to have their voices heard before it all comes to council. Involvement, we talked about that. Demonstrates community support to the City Council for future approvals from the Parks and Recreation Department. So again, coming back to where, again, if Michael comes up here saying, hey, I think this would be cool to have, I think it would show you guys that there's buy-in from the community if we have a group of board members showing up to this council meeting saying, hey, we support this idea as well. So what's next? From now on, we like to, moving forward, if we do decide to do this, we like to form a structure and outline of the board. So creating some bylaws, an application process on how to be on the board, onboarding of board members, etc. Ideally, we'd like to present the structure and resolution to City Council during the February 13th City Council meeting for your approval. And with that approval, if there is one, the Parks and Recreation Department will begin the recruiting process to fill the board. And so with this presentation, we want to give you guys an idea of what we're envisioning wanting to do. And I have this opportunity to answer any questions that you may have so that when we come to the 13th, we are prepared to get the ball rolling or get things going. So right now, is there any questions I may be able to answer?
No, I think it's a great idea. Just to, in a perfect world, I'd love to see some volunteers from each district. I don't know how the onboarding process is going to work. Will the positions be stipend, or is it just strictly volunteer?
That's up to council. In my experience, it's always been volunteer. However, if we want to do some compensation, we can definitely talk about that.
I don't have a question, but what I was thinking of was that years ago, we did a survey. Oh, no, it's on. They were interested in trying to see what the community wanted as far as programs and play structures or whatever. And so maybe, I don't know if we still have access to that survey so that you might be able to see what some of the outcomes were, and then also to see if we put anything in place or if there's more of a need or a quest for, something, just see how far we've come. Maybe we have put some of these things in place.
Right.
And if not, maybe we need to. So thank you.
That's a good comment. Back in 2020, the department redid its master plan. But since 2020, with COVID and everything going on with life, things changed very quickly. And so we do reflect back on that plan. I'm someone that likes to update our plans more frequent because, again, things just come out of the blue. It's not constant. So definitely we're using that plan to help us out. And we're actually currently doing more surveys right now. You guys will learn this about me here pretty soon, but I am a survey junkie. I do create survey fatigue for the communities. So that's something that we'll definitely keep in place of what's been done in 2020, but definitely keep on updating those processes.
Well, I like the idea of the board, so I say go for it. Thank you.
I'm all for a board too. I just think I'd like to see it called advisory committee or something like that. I don't know, when I think of board, I think of something a little bit different. But I'm all for having a committee on there. I think it's great way to go. Yeah.
I'm also in favor of whatever it's called. Make sure that when we're doing your bylaws, that you have a complete description of, let's say, if you have a chair or vice chair, what their roles are, responsibilities. Also the boundaries that you want to, assign that, advisory group instead of, just have them go on out, make sure there is a boundary, so you can have direction as you're preparing to move forward instead of, I have been on some that are a little haphazard. But anyway, good idea, and we look forward to it on, February, 13th?
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. All right. We're going to move forward with, public comment. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council LRA Board. Individual comments will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and time cannot be yielded to another person. Under state law, matters presented during the public comment period cannot be discussed or acted upon. Do we have anyone from the public wishing to speak? Come on up.
I am Olivia Rambula, owner of Timeless Real Estate here in Riverbank, and also I am part of your Chamber of Commerce here in Riverbank. And I'm here with a few things. First off, I figured I'd start positive, and we have a lovely event coming up. We have our 70th anniversary of our Chamber of Commerce. It's a celebration we're having on February 23rd. It's going to be here in Riverbank at Antigua. We do have tickets available for sale, and they are going live on our website by tomorrow morning, I believe. So more to come on that, but tickets are $25. We have VIP tables for $3.50. We also have sponsorships. We're in very big need of sponsorships. We're trying to make this a big come out and let's get our Chamber of Commerce growing again event. So we're hoping that everybody from council will be there. Bring your friends, bring your family. We want to have like dinner, dancing, fun. We're looking for sponsorship levels. We have a platinum sponsorship level. Includes like a company logo on the event flyer. Has company logo included on event program, and then has company logo included on the slideshow event. A special name announcement during the event, VIP table for 8. We have a flyer with more details, and then event keepsake and swag bag for each guest at VIP table. We're hoping that you guys would like to be a platinum sponsor. We would love to have you on our flyers, but that would be just one of the sponsorships. We have a gold sponsorship for $500, a silver sponsorship for $250, a bronze for $150. And I do have information if you guys or anyone else in the room would like to be a part of that. And if you're not a part of the Chamber of Commerce, I do have applications for that as well. And we do need to be strong and grow our business community. And with that, we do want to invite everybody to our meetings. They are open. They're at the Riverbank Industrial Complex. It's on Claus. We have them every other Tuesday. We are fixing it, so we make sure that we are having our meetings the same Tuesdays as council, try to keep everything kind of on the same day. And so our next meeting that we have is going to be February. I don't know, I already jumped to March, but it's going to be February. What is the date already? It's January. Yeah, the second, it's the second. Sorry, you guys, I wrote the wrong date down. But we have March coming up to February. We have, I wrote them down, friends, sorry. I didn't. But after February is when we're fixing it to join council's meetings. Right now we're off for February. We're like the first week and the third week for February. After that, it's going to be the second and fourth week of the month, 10 a.m. at the Industrial Complex in Riverbank. And then on top of that too, we were hoping that you guys can add something to our agenda to talk about. If you could put this on calendar, I'm not sure if the February 13th will work or not, but we're hoping to add to the agenda. The Riverbank Chamber of Commerce would like to go into events of the speculations about the wine festival. We want to get some stuff taken care of there. We want to know the outcome of the meeting with SMA Entertainment that happened. And we want to make sure that we support our Riverbank businesses to make sure that that they're represented to afford to attend these events and represent our town. So we just want to make sure we have involvement. I think that was my time up, right?
Yes, it is.
Sorry.
Thank you. Just, I do need to know, when is that anniversary, what date?
February 23rd, Friday night from 6 PM to 10 PM. Doors open at 5:30. Be there, please. We want you all there. Everybody.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Any others? Do we have any online?
Mayor, there is no one on Zoom wishing to speak.
All right, thank you. Moving forward, we go to the consent calendar. Consisting of item 9.1, waiver readings, 9.2, approval of the City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority Board minutes for January 9th, 2024. Item 9.3, resolution to consider approval of the River Edge South and River Edge North as phase map 1 and 2 to approve vesting tentative map 02-02023 located at 6612 and 6472 Central Avenue, APM 062-020-18 and 062-020-031 for the River Edge South subdivision and McRoy Wilbur Communities, Inc. Item 9.4, second reading by title only, an introduction of an ordinance amending Title 3, Administration, Chapter 30, City Council, Section 30.02, compensation for the City of Riverbank Municipal Code. Is there anyone wishing to pull or comment on any of the items? Do I have any consideration?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as stated.
I second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe?
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yes.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones Cruz?
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 11.1, a resolution of appropriating funds for the 2023 Cheese and Wine Festival and discussion of the 2024 Cheese and Wine.
Mayor and council, once again, Michael Patton, our Director of Parks and Recreation.
Hello again. So it's been a few months to get my feet a little bit settled, and I feel like it's about time we have discussion about the Cheese and Wine Festival, review what happened in 2023, go over some of the items there, and then obviously look forward to what we hope to do in 2024. Booker's not liking me right now. Yeah, so go ahead and do that, Jessica. Thank you. So with this presentation, there are a couple objectives I would like to hit. First one is analyze the key aspects of the Cheese and Wine event held in 2023. One of the things that we'll talk about is the event did go at a deficit financially, and so one of the things we'd like to request is to offset the financial deficit from the event using the general funds that are there. And then propose staff recommendations and ideas based on the review of the 2023 event, and then seek input and feedback from the City Council on staff recommendations. So 2023 in review. So we have some financials that Tammy has kindly prepared. So right here, what we're looking at is the revenues and expenditures of the event over the last 3 years in 2023, 2022, and 2021. As you can see, our revenues for 2023 are $67,174. Majority of that coming from just festival revenues, mainly your vendor fees. And if you go down to our expenditures for the event, the city spent $91,938 with a net of negative $24,764.
Michael, since you mentioned the vendor fee, can you remind us what it was for the 2-day event?
Or what was that?
Can you remind us what the vendor fee was for the 2-day event?
I'm not too sure on what that was. I do know it was a little bit higher than normal from what I've heard from vendors and from local businesses, a little bit higher than typical.
Can we get that number?
We'll let Michael continue and then we can look that up for you.
If we look at past in 2022, the deficit is, the deficit is a little bit less than it was this year by maybe about $2,600 around there. And then obviously in 2021, there's a big, we're closer to breaking even on that year as opposed to the other 2 years. Go ahead, Jessica. Thank you. So what we have here is in 2023, the city went and did an RFP. They contracted out with a group, SMA. And this was their proposal in their RFP on the projection on revenues, the actual and the differences. So we look at the revenues that they propose, and it's quite a little bit different from the actuals. Then the expenditures also a little bit different from a little bit off the target there. So another thing that we did like to do as well, actually back up real quick, Jessica. Before we get too far into the weeds, does council have any questions or on any of the financials that we talked about? Or is there something you want to zoom in on you may not be able to see, or on this slide and this previous slide? And this might be the first time you guys are looking at this now, so take a quick break here and talk about it.
Okay, so I'll make a quick comment. So so I know that there was a margarita stand there that kind of ate up some of the profits, right?
Mhm.
I'm assuming that's directly affecting line 2 beer sale revenues, right? Because
That-
they were budgeting 55, actual 10. I mean, that's a massive difference.
That's something that so after the event, we met with the contractor as staff, and that's one of the things that we assume that's what happened.
Right,
Is
okay.
there's other things that we consider too, poor advertising of where the beer stands are, the location of where they were. But we think of the margarita stand had a significant impact on those sales.
Plus, we changed from tap to cans, not 23, but 22, which also affected revenues.
Let's go back 2 slides, and we'll go back to this one. We were on here for just a hot minute, but we'll stay here for a little bit longer. Any other questions that council members may have on the financial side of the
Sorry about that. I actually have several questions, but I didn't know if we were going to finish the presentation, want questions at the end?
I would recommend, since we have the financials up at this point in time, that way we could answer all of your questions regarding the financials, have that
Mm.
discussion, and then move on to the 2024 event and the options that that we will present there.
We also have another point, council member, where we'll have general feedback or comments from the council members before we get to 2024. So if it's not related to financials, we can maybe wait.
Most of mine are financial. So I'll go ahead and just do it right now. So I was just trying to look at some of the numbers because to me, the 20 grand, or I'm just gonna say 20 grand, 22 on one year, 24 on the other one. And it's like, I was just trying to look at those and kind of get my head wrapped around it and why and where was this big, huge jump from 21 to 22? What did it encompass? And so my questions were kind of looking at the sheriff's charges in 2022, that there was a 10 grand there. But then these professional service, what is that and what accounts for the 20 grand jump there, if we can look at it? Because I kind of was under the assumption, and maybe I missed the boat on it, but we kept talking about this fencing. And so I was like, first off, where is the fencing in this? And did I miss it somewhere? And then if the fencing was such an issue, then it just didn't all quite add up to me in my head. So I need a little more help with that.
Yeah, so the professional services, that, to my understanding, Tammy, hopefully you can correct me on these things, it's mainly tied to the contract we have with the vendor to do the services of hosting the event. So you're looking at 2020, that 13,500, that's with the vendor itself. As far as the other question with fencing, I might turn over to Tammy here real quick.
So the fencing would be in the rents and leases. So it's a combination because there were several things that we had to rent or lease, including they had golf carts that they rent for the 2-day event. So they included other rentals in there, but it would be in the rents and leases is where the fencing is.
Okay, but this year, so we're at 24 this year. Last year was 22. And if the fencing was such a huge issue this year because we had to fence all the way down, I guess I would have liked to see really, I guess I'm just trying to get my head around where was this and where could this have been maybe a little bit different? And if
So-
the fencing was so much more this year than last year, why is the 22 really close to the 24 if the fencing was the issue?
So I don't know. I don't know where the fencing became the issue. I thought part of the reason why we restructured the area was to cut down on fencing, not to increase. And I could be mistaken. I thought when we fenced the year before, we had to do more fencing. So it would have technically been less in 23.
Well,
No.
23 compared to, so if you think about the fencing that we might have had with downtown is that there were additional areas that we had to fence compared to using residential homes as our fencing, basically. So I think that might have caused what I
Ask
think.
this a different way. How about this? If we look at 21, and I'm not trying to be obnoxious, I really truly am not. I'm just trying to get my head around where we went from $1,800 to 20 grand. So if we're looking at 21, bottom line, $1,800 to 20 grand that we had to take out of the general fund. And we had, okay, so they're saying there's fencing, we've listed a couple things. And then, well, geez, that's such a huge amount. And then again, the next year, it's still right there. So what can you tell me, just as looking at this, where exactly was that 20 grand? What accounted for all that? I mean, I can read the numbers and I can see them, but then it doesn't make sense for it to be the next year, because why should it be if you jumped up 20 grand from one year to the other, and then the next year it's another 20 grand?
So in
I just-
2021, you had, basically it's your sales versus your expenses, right? So your sales were up in 21. They slightly fell in 2022, whatever your net revenues were, but your expenditures increased in 2022. There was bigger expenditures there. And the security side of it is a hired security company. That's not necessarily a charge from the sheriff's office. That is a hired security company. In 2021, I'm not sure, and I apologize, but I didn't, 21's, I'm not sure where security costs went, if it was incorporated in maybe the rents and leases. But so then when you get to 23, we reduced our expenditures, but our sales dropped off so much in 23 that it caused us to stay in close to the same amount or even more than in 22. So our sales have went down over 20,000 since 21.
And we're blaming that on the margarita vendor.
Not, I
I
wouldn't
heard.
say, I would say that it contributed, but there was a big difference in.
20 grand?
There was no, I'm not saying that it contributed that much.
Been the 9,000. So basically went from,
Right.
or the 12,000 down to, it was really $2,000 because it went from beer sales of 12,000 one year to 10,800 the following year.
Yeah, and the difference between 21 and 22, I don't know what that big difference was. We had a change there where we did the wine tasting at the Antigua that year in 21, I believe. So I don't know if where your beer booths were placed in 21 made a difference in your sales or not. I'm not sure.
Well, the biggest decrease was your festival revenue. So it was your vendor fees. I mean, that was $9,000 right off the bat
For 23.
for
yes.
23, yes, compared to 22.
I think too, what added to is that we only had one session each day. And so, of the beer and wine tasting,
So for just the wine tasting?
yeah.
But that was about a
That was only,
$1,000 loss.
yeah, that was only
Yeah.
$1,000.
But really, it was your festival. It was your vendor fee.
No, I was just thinking that, it helped to decrease the sales because we didn't have more people because we didn't have more sessions. That was what I
Oh.
was saying.
I mean, it looks like in the story that this is telling is that the biggest difference between 21 and then 22, 23 are banners, flyers, tickets, and security. Since we have sheriff supporting us during the event, did we need it, or what was the decision?
So security has always been required, because they are the ones that are manning your gates and they're extra eyes for the sheriff's department. So their security is at all of the entrances and they are the ones that are scanning, the visitors when they're coming in. So in 2021, they had security. I'm just not quite sure where it got put in that, in those buckets there. Sorry.
Chief, one was Gilroy, 21. 2019, that's shooting. Okay, that's when we had tremendous security in 2019 and on.
And 2020 was the year that we did not do the event because of COVID.
Right. And so 21 is when we first had the massive fencing that we didn't have of the prior. We did have fencing.
Compare, yes. So
Yes, it was.
yeah, 2019 was our highest year in terms of the security costs that we had because of all of the additional sheriff's department staff that were here.
Manning the roof and
Manning the
everything.
roofs and everything. So that's where really the fencing discussion came in. For our purposes for 2023, it wasn't necessarily that there was a significant cost increase. So I'm not sure. I think the fencing discussion came about when we were looking to expand downtown and include the downtown businesses that we were discussing, all of the additional fencing we would need there because of the areas that we needed to cover, but not necessarily that we had such a huge jump in costs compared to prior years.
Just a big disparity in your beer and beer and wine expenses, and from 21 through 23. But the lower you spent, the higher you made.
So so in 21 and 22, the way that the city was receiving some of the expenditures was totally different than this year because they were all going through the contracted event planner. So I had a lot more detail that I could separate out in the 23 because we made all the invoices come through us. So I did struggle with, and that's why we switched it because we felt like we didn't have control over where the expenditures were going when everything was going through the prior event planner. So that's part of the reason why I struggle with some of those numbers and confirming them. While they gave us reports, we would go back and forth through them and try to clarify them. I know there's security in 21. I'm just not positive in which bucket it got placed for that.
Okay, go ahead.
If you want to jump ahead a couple slides. So one of the things, as I mentioned before in my previous presentation, I'm a survey junkie. And typically what we like to do is at the end of our events and programs, we like to get community feedback and hard written. That wasn't done this year. So what we did is we looked at what Facebook has provided. So this is some of the majority of the feedback we've gotten. We had a couple of good comments, but the majority were along the lines of this. Residents that were a little bit disappointed in how the event turned out. So going forward, we absolutely would love to get more input after the event. And this also ties in kind of with what staff were saying along the lines of how the event went. Go ahead, Jessica. So before we get too far going to 2024, we'd like to get your council's thoughts on how the event went. I know it was a few months back, so if maybe we could dig a little bit and try to think of what our thoughts and emotions were during that event and share how we can improve in 2024, things that went well that we want to keep on doing. Love to get your input on and get your feedback on how 2023 went.
Well, one thing, I did not have confidence in the contractor, not at all. Even 6 weeks prior to the event, it seemed like it was going to be a disaster. When he gave the presentation, I was embarrassed. He should have been embarrassed, but he didn't know he should have been embarrassed. The event was not family friendly. In some of the most successful years, we had a little carnival, or we had other events that promoted the families. The comments that you saw, the same comments every year, even when 2010, when my first exposure to it, or actually before that, 2008, where you have the same comments from this varying people, wasn't as good as last year, this event's going downhill. Maybe it was, but it continuously goes through. You had people commenting on that you captured that didn't even bother to attend. We need to probably give it a mission, not tonight. I think we need to give it a mission and figure out what we want out of this festival or exposition, however we want to say it. In my opinion, I think we should put in a strong non-cheese and wine event coinciding and having the cheese and wine beer in another location or adjacent location where it can flow back and forth. I've been struggling with this event since it was in the Rotary. Should it be a 2-day event? Will you take up 3 days of downtown, or could it be a 1-day event? Does it have to be downtown? Can it be, either at a park or? There's a lot of things that we need to take a look at. Doing business as usual is going to counteract what we're doing diligently in building our reserves and spending wisely, my opinion.
Okay, so there was definitely some security issues there. The security that they hired, they weren't wanting anybody there on the east side over by the park. They were letting them in, no wanting there. The kid, like the mayor kind of mentioned, it wasn't very family friendly. The kid area, compared to previous years, my daughter had a bounce house little area, and that was kind of it. And that was our first interaction, right? My daughter was on the bounce house. And there comes Michael, the new director of Parks Rec, coming right through the event. Yeah, I was kind of embarrassed actually, kind of seeing the fault. I know the chief saw and heard some issues that the coordinators there had no walkie-talkies. In the event something happened, like how are they going to talk to each other, right? So I mean, they were just basically relying on the chief. So there was a lot of stuff that they just kind of dropped the ball on. Probably, and I'll catch heat for it. It was probably one of the worst cheese and wine events that we've had in all reality. And it really was. I think we have a new Parks Rec director. We have a new full-time rec coordinator. I want to see this. I want at least one more chance with you guys. So my question is, can staff handle something like this? I know you're doing an amazing job. You want to do an event every month, maybe scaling those events down so we can focus on cheese and wine. What are your thoughts? Can staff handle
That is one of
this?
our recommendations. So once we get you guys' input on the past event, we'll look in 2024, and
Yeah.
we as staff, we've sat down and talked with staff on, on the staff side, how do we want to go about it? And so we have about 4 recommendations on how we would recommend or say these are options that we see viable, and that's one of the options.
Okay, and then the only other thing, the vendor fees. That was the main concern that I heard about. If we can work that to $150, try to stretch it, right? We want 60 vendors per block. If we can stretch it down, get about 300 vendors, that's $45K. I think it's doable. I think we can capture a lot of the revenues there if we try to scale the fee down to about 150 one-day event. A lot of the local vendors, crafts, that the $200, $300 mark is a little high for them if they're trying to recoup that, right? So I'll stop there.
And I'll throw out real quick, for those that don't know, I was able to attend the event as a spectator. This was before I accepted the position, and so I was there with my wife and child, and the highlight was walking down the street and having some random stranger scream my name out and look around, it's Luis running at me. So that was the highlight of my experience there. So
I agree there are immediate red flags with the vendor early on. So I feel we need community input and I think you're going in that direction, it sounds like. I would love to see the event continue on a smaller scale. I mean, community residents, the businesses in the area, and maybe even council and, yeah, early on. And have experts, where we have gaps, like, the wine and cheese vendors, the, marketing communications, and have input there from outside sources.
I had some huge reservations. Before I left the door after we had the presentation from the vendor when he came and presented, my phone was blowing up before I got to my car. And I remember meeting with Maricela and I'm like, can we cancel this? And I was embarrassed and I was mortified. We have Riverbank we need to have something shining here. We need to have something that is just off the charts. And I don't know that, it might be time to look and revamping and doing something completely different. I just think that if we try, and I'm with you, Louise, I'm with you. Like, I'd love to see one more go, but I don't know if we can handle doing another 20 grand for something that was really, really hard to watch and see and have our names attached to it. It was sad. So I don't know, I'm kind of, me, I get all, okay, here we go. But there's some more things I want to say about it. I just think we need to kind of examine and maybe, I don't know if because of where it's at the certain state that we can revive something that's the same. I think we might be able to get what we're looking for by going a completely different direction. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but I am. So I just think that starting fresh and anew with something else might be able to get, here's our new thing. Instead of here's our thing, we're gonna give it our best shot forward. I don't know. I wish I knew and I wish I could say that this is what we need to do. But I'm kind of looking for, if our input, I'm ready to see something completely different. I really am. Yeah. Something that I'm really proud of. And I can just get 200% because that's where I want to be.
Okay, so I have what you can say lived experience with cheese and wine. So I think that this was one of the worst. Is just the management of the vendors that we had to run everything. I was expecting more vendors. It was very short. A lot of people complained, where is everybody at? There was a lot of problems with even the vendors signing up. It was a lot of problems with trying to get information out of the vendors as I participated, trying to get things going for my nonprofit. There was a lot of unknowns, so that was very disappointing. But I just think that I don't want to totally give it up. I think that if we roll it back to a one-day event, and because I think that the cheese and wine is one of the things that Riverbank is really, really known for. There's a lot of people that come to that cheese and wine event every year, year after year. They want to save the glasses. They want to buy the glasses. They want to get glasses from previous years. And I would just like to see us turn it into a one-day event and do the wine tasting, have at least a couple sessions, maybe even 3. But I just think that one more try, I'm good with that. Thank you.
And to conclude it, I've always asked for a cultural heritage day. I think you could combine and put the emphasis on our cultural heritage for the city of Riverbank. My opinion.
All right, Jessica, you want to go on to the next slide? So going to 2024, I sat down and talked with staff, the Parks and Recreation staff, on their thoughts and some possible options we can have going forward. And so in our brainstorming sessions, we came with 4 options that we'd like to present to council on the staff perspective on how we would suggest maybe going forward this year. The first one is do the same old, contract again with the management to contract with someone to oversee the management of the event again. That's been done the last few years. It's always an option to do the same thing, so we just want to throw out, it's an option. The second option is have the Parks and Recreation Department manage the event in-house. We, as a department over the last couple of years, have grown to where we have multiple full-time staff members that have experience in event planning. The city where I came from, we did something similar to this where it housed 25 to 30,000 people over a weekend long event where we took it over and expanded it and made it see grow. So in-house, it's something that would be excited for. Staff would also like to put their name onto this because with the event that happened in 2023, essentially because we see in the city, we don't get a lot of good credit, but we get a lot of the faults. And so a lot of them were a little bit embarrassed to be associated with that as well. So if we keep it in-house, we can at least take responsibility if it goes wrong, or we take the credit if it goes right. The third option is forego the cheese and wine event and create a new annual event to take its place. Something that staff has suggested doing, and I said we can look into that and try bringing something where it brings in tourism to town, highlight our town, as some of you have mentioned. The last option is, again, forego the event and use the dedicated funds across all of our community events throughout the year. One thing I've challenged our Parks and Recreation staff is to do one community event a month, whether it be a huge one or a small one. With our limited budget, it'd be nice to have some extra ammunition to make those events a little bigger and better. Again, it won't be that big, shiny gem to highlight the city, but it does add a little bit more quality to our smaller events. So those are some of the 4 options that we have suggested. And Jessica, you want to go to the next slide? Actually, go back one more. Before we go on to it, does council have any thoughts on that? Anything you want to add on to that after we just talked about 2023? Perfect. I'll go to the next slide, Jessica. So requested actions. We have a resolution here for you guys to approve moving funding from the general fund to the cheese and wine account to offset the deficit. And then obviously want to provide guidance to the department on how to approach the 2024 event with right now we'd love to have started planning it yesterday. So we'd like to get some guidance so that we can start hitting the ground running tomorrow on getting this event rolling on whatever direction we decide to do. Go ahead, Jessica. And let's chat.
I think Mayor, if I can just jump in, since we've had an opportunity for you to share, some of you have already shared your thoughts on where you would like the event to go, but if you could be a little bit more succinct with that so that we can walk away tomorrow or tonight with Michael already knowing exactly what to do and what conversation to have with his staff tomorrow. So if you are supportive of one option over another, please, express that as best as you possibly can. Because every day that passes is just one less day that we have to plan should we move forward with the event as it is. Every day that passes is just another day we can't plan a new event if we decide that that's the route that we want to go. I can't say that city staff is supportive of one over another. We certainly love the traditions that we have set here in the city of Riverbank. Being a longtime resident, I've always known the second weekend in October, there is something going on in Riverbank, and a lot of our residents are used to that. Will it continue in the same fashion that it has in the past? Maybe, if we give it another go, or do we look at a new opportunity for a new event that weekend?
Before we have that discussion, I'd like to know, what are your timelines? You want us to make a decision right now where we have options and we need to explore it. We have a new committee that's being formed that can provide us inputs from the community, like you say, that doesn't need to be today. You're indicating that it does. If I was a voting member, I would say that you start planning for an event. And as we get your committee together and we get guidance, then we make, okay, this is what the community supports. This is where we agree, let's move that way. I'm not gonna throw out the event. It doesn't have to be cheese and wine exposition. It could be Riverbank's exposition. And that way we can start forming around that. If you're gonna have vendors, you can build your basic outline. And then as we get solidification from your committee, then we can fill in the details. That's what I think. I don't want to throw away $24,000. And if we say, well, we're going to give it to your other events, that may be viable. But let's get let's get a good discussion on it, not just come up, well, this is where we want you to go.
Well, I think, Mayor, what gets to be difficult when you wait for a board or a commission to be put together is, number one, we're not going to come to you until February 13th for you to review bylaws. We then have to recruit from there, and it's all going to depend on how council wants us to recruit. There was a conversation about the possibility of having an individual from each district be recruited. Is it going to be a nomination form? Is it going to be an actual application form? So now you're having to give time to let individuals apply. Then you're gonna, if it's an application form and you get multiple applications and you only have 5 slots to fill or whatever council desires for the committee makeup to be, having to go through interviews, selection, come back to council for adoption. Now we're getting into April or May. To me, having come from a financial background, the soonest I can start to plan with the vendors that I am going to need for a particular event, the easier it becomes to budget and manage those costs. Because if I see that quotes are coming in at an exorbitant amount, I now have time to go out and request additional vendors for fencing, for stages, for, electricity. We usually have an electrician that comes in to assist. So it gives us more time to be able to do that research so that we don't end up where we were last year, where the vendors that we used for a lot of those items were from out of the city, Sacramento. So we were paying traveling fees. We were paying things that we did not need to pay for. But that's sort of the nature of trying to plan, and especially if we do keep it at a 2-day event. You want to get those vendors solidified as quickly as possible so that they can hold that time for you.
I wanted to add a little bit of information to our discussion. We have a community member that said she believed that she had an application with the vendor fees. Can you come up?
Olivia Rambo, at the time was real estate in Riverbank and part of Riverbank Chamber of Commerce. I have for the last 3 years, I do have those application fees. For last year, the application fees were, sorry, friends. They were $500 and there were 2 separate ones. $500 was for a 10x20 retail booth space for $500. 10x10 retail booth space was $325. That was for 2023. For 2022, it was $275. And I don't have all the exact specifics. I just know what I paid for, which was the price that everyone paid for. There wasn't anything in the budget that made it less for our Riverbank business owners. In 2021, I paid $100 as a Riverbank business owner. And that is very important. I think that's why we didn't have a lot of Riverbank people there. Again, as many of you said on council, the prices do need to be adjusted. Especially if we had this year on 2021, we had where it was $100 for our Riverbank business owners. And then I believe it was $200 to $250 for out of town people. We need to bring this back to Riverbank and make sure that we're representing the businesses that are here are being represented and using the people that are here in Riverbank that are supporting this community, paying their business permit fees and paying their taxes here. Those were the numbers though. So you have any questions? I might have more. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I feel like we all talk about the cheese and wine year round, even before planning. And so I feel comfortable saying a more abbreviated version of the event and still giving it, I know we said that last year it'd be, our last chance of doing this, but I feel confident like city staff to do it. And if anything with the committee, then there can be discussions about, is this going to be the last one and should we market it that way? Discussions about vendor fees and what that should look like, maybe some high level stuff, but I feel we should do an abbreviated version this year.
I have, I had some reservations with the setup for last year and I was pretty vocal about it and y'all know where I stand with it in the downtown businesses. And what one of my concerns was the way they had it set up and the downtown businesses, if they wanted to be open, they didn't, I was worried about parking. So everyone that's going into the event parks in front of those. So I have pictures on my phone that vendors that were in paying for the vendors, the booths were parked in our front of our local businesses. They were there before 7:30 a.m. and in the afternoon. And they took up the spots in front of businesses that were open. And they were parked there all day long. And with their logo of their booth parked in front of our local businesses. That sends a message. That sends a message to our downtown businesses and it sends a message to people that pay attention. And so it was really hard to go, okay, we were expecting something like this. It was just pretty sad. I have a quick question. What do we have any, and I'm all for one of thinking out of the box here and just going crazy. Do we have any kind of an option to use any of the property at at our area? What do we call it? RIC, Riverbank Industrial Complex still?
Be a good one.
I was like, it's got several names, but let's just call it that for now, because I believe it's still city proper. Have we conveyed it all? What I'm going after is, do we have a location where we could set up beautiful tents and have one location that could encompass parking and one place, and instead of worrying about our downtown, I'm completely thinking out of the box here. And wouldn't that be cool to have some fun run 5K somewhere like we used to have years ago? The carnival for the kids was absolutely fabulous. We used to have that train going down the middle of it. I don't know. I mean, can't we think completely out of the box, something new, not even having it here? Just, I don't even know if that's even an option to have, but I don't think it's all conveyed to somebody else yet. And if so, could we rent it from them? So
It is not all conveyed. Currently the vacant land that you see out there, it does belong to the Army. So we would probably have to go through some application process with them to see if the regulators.
But the part that isn't.
The part that is not.
I'm just
So
thinking I guess I'm just thinking of the fabulous event that we put on when we had that event out there when the secretary came out from the Navy.
Yeah,
That
so
was spectacular.
the buildings that are out there are occupied. So that's the unfortunate part, is we wouldn't be able to do it indoors. The outdoor spots that are still vacant raw land still do belong to the Army. The one that's right along Claus Road, which is called 1 and 1A, that's going to be taken up by the North County corridor. And I'm sure they're going to be looking to start construction sometime this year. So that might not be a best option. The other land that is available is all the way on the other side of the fencing that's blocked off where the RV parking is at. So it's not the easiest of locations.
We have
to get to.
another spot that looks pretty much like an ISO over here. It's some beautiful white carnival tents out there at our cannery. Might look kind of cool going over the viaduct. I'm just, instead of all of us saying, no, why don't we think big? If we're going to continue to do this, why can't it be just completely different and think big and market it as something completely different that someone can get behind? So I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there just because sometimes you get those crazy ideas and go, oh, well, we never really thought of that crazy one on the end.
Why don't we go for a big event right now and give a drop dead date that we scale it back? That way you can start doing your event. I know it's going to be a little bit of an inconvenience, but we can start it and then come on up with some, it can be successful. It has been in the past. Let's go for a 2-day and then scale back if we have to. go ahead, shoot me down on this.
So
May I,
That can-
may I speak, Mayor?
that could certainly be an option. The difficulty is when you have a vendor that's gearing up for a 2-day event and pays a fee for a 2-day event, and then you're having to either refund or scale them back. Same with vendors that you're looking to do, where if you have a rental of fencing that they could have done elsewhere, and then you tell them, sorry, it's only gonna be 1 day. It gets a little bit difficult when you start to have to counsel folks like that, but you can certainly explore.
I was ready to pull the plug, last year.
Yeah. And Michael had some comments.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat with Maricela. I mean, we can create a framework, but we can't recruit vendors due to, we can't say, hey, we're doing a 2-day event, then a few months before, we're like, hey, we're now switching out to a 1-day event, or if we do we're advertising as cheese and wine, and then we decide to switch it up. Vendors might be a little bit hesitant because they're like, we know it's cheese and wine. We don't pay the same fee for a brand new event that no one knows about. So it does make it a little bit harder on us with the plan that Maricela said, of trying to get vendors like for fencing. Might be a problem with maybe Chief Public Security if we say, hey, it's going to be a 2-day event or a 1-day event, or, have him try and plan ahead with his scheduling with staff that far ahead. It does put a little bit of wrench in us really making moves that will benefit.
So just my, I guess, guidance. So the first one, I will, be voting to approve the resolution. As far as the guidance, I think we should go for 1-day event. It'll focus staff on the 1 day, on the Saturday. That way we're completely focused on that. So we're not getting hit with penalties or whatever. Like one of the residents said, but we need to have a lower vendor fee, whether it's $150 or a reduced price for the Riverbank businesses. I think that's the goal. And then I want to see, I do want to see it from the community center stretch down into our downtown businesses. The parking thing was just out of control. I didn't even expect that. Once I started getting calls about it also, it was another letdown on top of everything else that we were seeing. So lower vendor fee, love to see 300 vendors there, 5 blocks, 4 blocks even, making it a 1-day event. And then the board can definitely tackle this 2025.
All right, let's hear from the public. Come on up. Please.
Oh, welcome. It's good to see a new face. Terry Spezzano. I think I know most people. So I think we've kind of struggled with this event, and that's fine. I obviously was out of town last year, but I heard the rumors. Anyway, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to acknowledge what Mayor O'Brien said. I think what we have lost is that community spirit with it, where we're bringing in kids, and we had 1 year where they brought in Lego, and it was a lot of fun. And honestly, the only adult thing is the wine tasting. Kids like cheese, contrary to popular belief. So I think a 1-day event would be great. I also love the idea of you bringing it in-house, and that brings us even if you do that. Even if it's like it was last year. It's pretty much, I was looking at those numbers. Your cost is in hiring crazy people to run it. Sorry for the crazy people, but last year they weren't any good. And the year before they weren't any good. And they don't even know the laws. I've been serving the beer for several years now. And the people that you hire don't have their permits. And as a food safety person and someone who has their ABC license for years and years and has run bars and restaurants, I'm surprised ABC hasn't come down. And I probably shouldn't say that online, but we don't have, and we have counsel here. He probably knows too. So if you're hiring people and spending that kind of money, I don't understand what the vetting process was. And by bringing it in-house with someone who obviously has done these types of events, you're not only saving money, you're also doing the right thing. So I 100% think we should do 1 day, maybe 2 days, but at least 1 day, and give the people that you trust to run your city a chance.
Thank you. Any other public?
My name's Randy Richardson. I'm at 2528 Cottage Point Drive. And the thing that got out of the discussion and the information and, is that I believe that we really need to spend some time, paying attention to the businesses that are in Riverbank, California. I don't know what has happened, but since I've been coming to the council meetings, taking Charles' place, it just seems to be a disconnect between the city and the businesses. And I'm not saying that is a negative thing in a sense that it's anybody's fault, but I just really feel like if we were gonna do an event, a wine and cheese festival in Riverbank, if we researched in the past, I believe that you'll find that the businesses in Riverbank during those times were being acknowledged and celebrated a little bit more than feeling like they're being stepped on like they are now.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Mayor, we have one on Zoom.
Okay.
Arlene Figueroa, and I'm from 2757 Grove Road. Been a part of Cheese and Wine Festival for close to 20 years now. Like I remember pushing my daughter in a stroller, so it's close to 20 years now. I would like to see it scaled down to one day so that we can really concentrate on doing our best. The last, I want to say 2 to 3 years, I've been seeing it go down, go down, go down. Last year was the worst. I think we all kind of agree on that. But I would like also for there to be more concentration on the children, more family oriented. Because while the adults have their wine tasting to go in and everything, the children are bored and not being able to, play and have a good time. I would like to see some education about like maybe how cheese is made. We don't have that. We don't have the enough tasting of different types of cheeses, or even food that is made out of cheese other than maybe a cheeseburger. So I would like to see that we do our due diligence and try to get some of our local vendors do those things, or have the cheese companies maybe donate and stuff like that. And even when it comes to the wine, I know at this last year's festival, I don't know where that wine came from, but I believe a lot of it came from like some Amazon company or something. It was purchased and it was like from all over the place. It wasn't a lot of local. The biggest local we had was Gallo. So, and to me, that was disappointing because I know we can do better. Definitely.
Thank you. Gabby.
Yeah, sorry, I'm asking them to unmute. The number ending in 3108. Can you please unmute? The number ending in 3108, can you please unmute?
Move forward. All right. So let's do the resolution first, and then we'll give you input. Do I have consideration?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you. We're gonna go on my right. Luis, you said 1 day event. You want to
Yeah, so we'll do so I'll push for one day event, lower vendor fee, discounted for Riverbank businesses, focus on family oriented. And in-house, sorry, forgot that last time.
Ditto, and if it's our last, if the committee decides it's our last one, then it would be great to have input of, the community and committee and businesses.
On my left, Darlene?
I think one day event, so pretty much what you two already said, lower fees, in-house, family, education, children, activities. I think we'll be good with that.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I've said an awful lot tonight.
No kidding.
Not always chatty Cathy, but tonight, yes. I'll get behind what we said here. And I'm a team player and ready to go.
I'm in concurrence, one day event, family oriented. I don't believe you're gonna get a lot of vendors for both cheese and wine. I was on that committee at one time where the only one you had participating was Hillmar, and they scaled back drastically. Branco pulled out of these events. We may have to re-engage. So we may want to shift our concentration from cheese and wine and go for a Riverbank exposition that will concentrate on, as we said, family oriented. You can have some beer and wine sales if that is the desire, but it doesn't have to be a cheese and wine event, in my opinion. But we can start gearing that way and we'll see what happens. If you get all these vendors for the event, that would be perfect, but you haven't had it for 10 years.
Now, another thought I had was that maybe it should be something like a sip and stroll rather than the wine tasting event itself. So that's another thought.
Yeah, it doesn't have, we could have it 2 days of sip and stroll, Friday evening, and you have the event Saturday. Okay, we have options.
So I'll take this back to staff. We'll brainstorm ideas. I think we have very competent staff, and like I said, I've challenged them to be very diverse and think outside the box. And so I think they've already come with some great ideas for our smaller events throughout the year. I think this one will be a fun one to do. I'll be excited for it.
I think it will be a fun one. And I look forward to it. Okay. We're going to move on to staff comments.
Just a couple of comments from me. We've got from Public Works, the rainy weather is here again. So please remember that there are sand and sandbags available at our Public Works Corporation yard. It is self-serve, but we can help out if there's an elderly individual that may need some assistance. Tickets are currently available for our Parks and Recreation My Little One and Me Valentine Dinner Dance, which is going to be on Saturday, February 17th. You can get your tickets online on our recreation page or here in the office. The Riverbank Historical Society will be holding the grand unveiling of their mural on Saturday, February 3rd from 1 to 4 p.m. For those who have not seen the mural, it is located here in downtown at the south end of the former Bordona Bank building. This Thursday, the city will be participating in the annual Homeless Point in Time Count. The count provides Stanislaus County with data that is reported to the Department of Housing and Urban Development and aids in the allocation of funds to help end homelessness. So it is a very important event. And I want to say thank you to the volunteers who have already committed to assisting us that day. We will be holding a breakfast for our unhoused residents that day at Scout Hall, starting at 8:00 a.m. We also will have some treats available at our day use facility for our residents who happen to attend there. And then the Stanislaus County Care Team will actually be coming in to count along the river. So I feel like this year we will probably get the best indication of what our numbers really truly are here in Riverbank. Prior years, we've been steady at 18 when we know, and Seth, who is working at our day use facility, knows that we were probably around 30 to 35.
Will the day use facility be open at 8 a.m. also?
Day use facility will be open, not at 8 a.m., but Seth will be there, to take anybody who comes in and start assisting.
Hey, I had a quick question. So the point in time count, is it only going to be done by the care team, or will you have someone at the Scout Hall too?
No, so Scout Hall is our opportunity for the volunteers that have already come in and committed to be there. So the count will be performed by the volunteers. And then the care team will count those who don't happen to make their way up to get breakfast from us. And we will also have a team that is actually going out through the city just in case there's somebody that we don't happen to capture at those 3 locations. And then this afternoon, the city did receive notification from the county register of voters that the Urban Growth Initiative has failed to gather the necessary amount of signatures needed to qualify for the November ballots. And last comment, the Finance Department has published the fiscal year 23-24 budget book via our new software provider, ClearGov. The budget book is accessible via the Finance Department webpage. It's very interactive, so feel free to go take a look around and give us your feedback on ways that we can improve and make things easier to read for our residents. And that is all from staff today.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Hernandez.
Were you gonna mention sister cities? We are, the Sister City Committee is always welcoming new members, but we are gonna be doing some fundraising for Tamasula, starting with a raffle that's being led by our committee. So we're selling opportunity tickets for that raffle. And then we're also planning in a dunk tank for the carnival, the Founders Day Carnival, so which we're excited about, and hopefully the mayor will participate and you'll be able to help us fundraise.
Thank you, Councilmember Uribe.
So just to be clear, it'll be $10 to dunk the mayor. So just keep that on your calendars. Okay. I'll make
10 ball. You have to hit that. You can't just.
We will charge whatever you'd like, Mayor, if you step in there. So I'll make mine quick. So as part of the Alliance of Elected Officials, we had a lengthy discussion with Senator Ashby. We talked about the RENA numbers, loss of redevelopment, some legislation she'd like to see. We talked housing topics, redevelopment, ghost housing. And I had my first Revenue and Taxation Subcommittee on the 18th, talked about the priorities for 2024, dove deep into the state budget, some legislation in the works, one that I'm watching closely, Prop 41 amendment is on the table. It's going to kind of address the shoplifting of the $950, which is hitting, as the mayor knows, and a lot of retails. It is an election year, so we dove deep into some propositions, ACA 113, and there are some, as the council knows, the Business Roundtable Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act has some legal issues. They're going to be addressing that in March in the Supreme Court, so I'll be keeping an eye on that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Barbara Martinez.
There is a neighborhood mini grant program that offers $50 to $250 to residents of Stanislaus County that wish to organize neighborhood gatherings or block parties. And the purpose is to help people in your neighborhood to connect, have interactions, and to create safer communities. I attended the League of California Cities, the Public Safety Policy Committee, and we will be working on safeguarding local revenues and bolstering local economic development, strengthening climate change, resiliency, and disaster preparedness, improve public safety in California communities, which includes taking a deep look at Prop 47 and also the fentanyl crisis, expanding investments to prevent and reduce homelessness, increase the supply of affordable housing. And I also attended the Ad Hoc Bridge Committee meeting, and the bridge housing is a way to address the challenges of homelessness through community accountability, sheltering, housing, and program services. And then I wanted to remind everyone that Central Valley Community Resources is going to have their 7th annual Krabby Love Affair, which is a crab feed, our annual fundraiser for our at-risk young adults ages 18 to 21. And that is on February the 10th at the community center right here in Riverbank. And then I want to leave you with a Martin Luther King quote, because his birthday was this year and everybody was celebrating. And I hope that everyone got a chance to get out and do something of service and check in on your neighbors and just, feel good about helping somebody. So this Martin Luther King quote that I have is, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And when I think about the unhoused residents that are in our area, our city, that are cold and they're out in the rain, I'm very grateful that we have opened our day use facility and we expect to open our Sierra House very soon. So thank you to the council and the staff for making that happen. And we still need blankets and clothing and snacks, and you can donate that to the day use house. Thank you. Oh, program, you know what I mean. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice Mayor,
I have nothing tonight.
thank you. The comment that you heard about the initiative failing, one thing we will do as a city, still be very respectful of the agricultural requirements in our area around Riverbank, but still balance it with the need for providing housing of all pricing. So as we go forward, we're going to be very mindful of it. At the same time, we are looking forward to our year-end information from each of the departments. Will we have the midterm financial review?
That is scheduled for the second meeting in February.
Okay. And then I'm looking forward to the financial forecast later on. But the financial forecast is a Riverbank initiative started 2013 that the league thought was a good idea, and they have that now. But it's our idea, and it's a very good one. Sierra House funds was already spoken about. We need funding. That's going to be through community inputs or fundraising. And Love Riverbank, fundraiser. Crab Feed, fundraiser. Sister City, fundraiser. We have to spread out our fund. I'm doing fundraisers too, and we have to spread it out. You only have one bank of people, and you're asking to contribute to 8 different things in a 6-week period. Let's start spreading that out. Okay, spread it out there. All the good people in Riverbank, and then you have, as soon as you've done that, then you have the day after Mother's Day or the Sunday after Mother's Day, and you have all the other ones that are coming on up. I think the Recreation Committee should take a look at that because that's fun to do. It's a fundraiser. And then I want to thank the chief and your efforts in the retail theft. They had a task force out there. They caught a lot. I'm sure we all heard or read the reports. The retail community, especially at the Crossroads Shopping Center, were very appreciative. Every time I go in, it's like, oh, you guys did great. And I said, I take credit for it, but I don't. Okay, with that, we have no closed session, but we will be adjourning, and our next meeting will be Tuesday, February 13th, 2024, here at 6 p.m. Adjourned.